Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome back to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Progress Texas Advocacy and Development Coordinator Tatum Owens. Today, we are recording in the aftermath of nationwide protests in response to the abduction of Liam Conejo Ramos and countless others across the nation who have been packed into the massive immigration and detention operation infrastructure in our state, managed underneath the cruel tyranny of Trump's lackey-in-chief, Governor Greg Abbott, and their masked goons. In the name of immigration and border protection, we've witnessed escalated attacks on our neighbors at home, at restaurants, and in the workplace. We've heard that Texans abducted without contact or representation are exposed to recent measles outbreaks. And overall, we've seen intense dehumanization and targeting of Latino and Hispanic communities. To the point, our families' freedoms and futures are under attack. But we know what keeps our communities safe. It's living in communities where we look out for our neighbors, which Texans are doing, where we have access to the great schools and healthcare we need, and where the people sworn to serve and protect us prevent, investigate, and solve crimes to treat us all as equals. Latino and Hispanic Texans are under attack, but we're here today with leaders paving the way forward. Joining us today is Latino Victory's President and CEO, Katharine Pichardo, a trailblazer who has melded political organizing experience, expertise, and executive leadership to become a widely recognized changemaker in the governmental, political, and civic arena. Thank you for being here, Katharine. Welcome.
Thank you so much for hosting us. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Texas.
I'm so excited for our conversation and for our listeners. Katharine's organization, Latino Victory, was founded in 2014 to build political power in the Latino community to ensure that Latino voices and values are represented at every level of government and in the policies that drive our country forward. So, Katharine, to start us off, I'd like to introduce our audience to your organization. Latino Victory has a multi-pronged approach, including a 501c3, C4, and Super PAC, all with the goal to build Latino political power in an effective, long-lasting way. Katharine, please tell us about your work and each prong of your organization, and which, if not all, you'll use in Texas this year and years to come.
Absolutely. And I will say, as you mentioned, we have one singular mission, which is really to build Latino political power. So in order to do that, we have to track what that looks like through every step in the life cycle of a Latino voter, from citizenship to public service. And how we do that is through our multi-agency approach. Through our C3, the Latino Victory Foundation, we do a lot of our cultural programming, uplifting the Latino community at a time when, as you know, our community is being targeted. We also do a lot of our nonpartisan citizenship, voter registration, voter education work, really engaging folks in a real way from the get-go. Through our C4, Latino Victory Project, we run a lot of our signature programming, including Path to Victory, which is a program to train Latino candidates and their staffs on how to build winning campaigns. But that's from where we also do a lot of our issue advocacy, from economic opportunity to immigration and climate and community safety. And that's also where we do a lot of partnership work with folks who are like-minded and want to support Latino and Democratic candidates across all levels of government. We're one of the few national PACs that endorses from school board to President of the United States. And that's really what a lot of our work is known for. Through National Super PAC, the Latino Victory Fund, we recruit, endorse, and support Latino Democratic candidates. And we also mobilize Latino voters, because at the end of the day, it's not only about ensuring that they turn out to vote, but it's that they also vote for Democratic candidates. So in Texas specifically, we see a lot of opportunity. Latino voters will be a deciding factor in the 2026 midterm elections. Out of 61 battleground districts, 39 of them are Latino influence districts, which means that a 5-point shift in Latino voters could determine who wins or loses those elections. And so, specifically in Texas, we want to make sure we are filling in the gaps of the infrastructure, working early, working with partners, and helping our candidates win, because that's how we all win.
Absolutely. Filling in every part of the political arena, and very excited to see the work that y'all are doing here in Texas. Hear some more about that soon. For our next question, would you bring us up to this moment? As the Trump regime has enabled racial profiling and speaking Spanish as permission enough to abduct someone off the streets and into detainment, our Latino neighbors are being systematically targeted. Katharine, would you share with us how Latino Victory is reacting to the hostile political climate, scapegoating, and fear-mongering around our Latino and Hispanic communities?
Thank you for that question. It's really a complex topic. It's not something that really started of late. It's something that we've seen in a systematic way, as a continuation, frankly, of civil rights. And we're sitting here during Black History Month at a time when we're building partnerships with our API and African American colleagues, and saying enough is enough. This administration really, in a very authoritative way, reminiscent of third world countries, looking to undermine the rights that we've long fought for, right? As a woman, I feel embarrassed that my daughter has less rights than my mother did or that I did, right? And certainly as Latinos, we are bearing the brunt of this cruel immigration agenda that really is not doing anything that it was set out to do, right? Many Latino voters feel buyer's remorse, and voters in general who understood there was something that was sold to them as enforcement, but in reality is masked authoritarianism, and maybe not so unmasked racism, sexism, you name it, right? And so the moment that we find ourselves in is critical for anyone who's alive. No one can sit this out. And as Americans, we have to ensure that we are protecting our rights, that we're ensuring due process. Certainly, the immigration debate is a portion of it, but we're working very closely with partners, Tatum. Here, this is not just about immigration. We are seeing our democracy undermined at every level, whether it is when freedom of the press is compromised, or the freedom of private entities and corporations to decide on how to hire or promote folks within their camps. Academia is being challenged. All of our institutions are being challenged. And so we're working very closely with our national partners and folks on the ground to fight for our rights and ensure that our democracy can exist for the generations to come.
Absolutely. And thank you for pointing out as Americans was one of the phrases you used, because America is known for being a melting pot. And while what we are seeing right now in the scapegoating and fear-mongering of our Latino and Hispanic neighbors is extremely targeted on those two specific groups, the mass amount of immigrants that have come to the U.S. come from all over. And with the beginning of immigration policy in the U.S. being targeted against Asian Americans that came here. So it's a fight involving solidarity and everybody, and absolutely ingrained in systemic racism. So thank you for pointing that out, Katharine.
The fact is that I will tell you, for myself, as an immigrant, I came here when I was 14 years old with my parents, looking as most immigrants do for a better future, to fulfill that American dream. And so whether it be putting myself through school or working in the civic arena, I take great pride in the fact that I am an American, although I was not born here. The fact that I actually had to work for it, going through a process, right, and earning my stripes, studying for that citizenship test, swearing allegiance for the first time, holding my American flag. And so this is why, by the way, as a woman, as a Latina, but as an American, I fight so hard for those democratic values that we signed up for when we became U.S. citizens. And so certainly, whether you're born here or not, it is something that we all feel great pride in, those values. And that's, I think, what ties us together, right? Much has been said about the Latino community not being monolithic, the fact that we're very diverse. But when it comes to values, I got to tell you, we are united, whether it is economic opportunity for ourselves and our families, or fair and decent housing, or opportunity as it relates to preserving a planet that's our kids can live in, and our grandkids. There's so many values that bring us together, and I think what we need to get back to really is culturally competent messaging in many of these communities, where we need to earn back the trust of voters, but we can't do it alone. That's why we need coalitions, we need common ground. And that's why I'm here today, hoping to win some supporters as we continue to do our work in Texas and beyond.
Very glad to have Latino Victory and Katharine as an extension of that, doing the work on the ground to make sure that all communities here in Texas, but especially our Latino communities, are being advocated for and represented at that. We'll get to that. We've already talked a little bit about your organization addressing a critical lack of leadership in representing Latino Texans and beyond, with Latinos constituting almost 20% of the population nationally, but only 2% of elected officials represented. We have a major problem to address, and you can check out that stat on Latino Victory's website. I think of Congressman Joaquin Castro, who confronted the detention facility where 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos was being held. He held the Trump admin accountable. And going back to your point about feeling proud to be an American, I think of the protest this weekend that Progress Texas was able to attend. I was able to be there. And I see symbolic representations of that pride, despite of people coming together and showing American flags as an extension of that symbolism. So I'd love to hear from you about some of the programs that are addressing this lack of leadership and why you think this is a critical issue in bringing people together.
Absolutely. Bottom line is representation matters. It matters because those folks that are going to be in the rooms where decisions are made need to reflect not only the values that we talked about, but also the lived experiences that are going to allow them to relate to the issues really at the core of our communities. And these are the folks who are also going to be able to fight in order to ensure that those issues are addressed. So when you think about someone like Congressman Joaquin Castro, when you think of someone like Gina Hinojosa, when you think of someone like Congressman Greg Casar, Congresswoman Silvia Garcia, and so many others who are fierce leaders who've been fighting the good fight on the ground, but then also so many other new faces that are leading in the space of these 2026 midterm elections. I think of the kind of representation I want to have, right? Fierce leaders with lived experiences who are also the kinds of folks that we want in the rooms where decisions are made. Bottom line, if we're not at the table, we are on the menu. That's why representation matters, and that's why we're fighting so hard for more Latinos in elected office, but also specifically in these 2026 midterms. We know that the road to Democratic majority in the House starts with the Latino community. Specifically, it starts in Texas. And when you break down the demographics of some of the congressional districts that are key in flipping the House, you know that these are key seats that Democrats have to win.
We're seeing that shift. And as we wrap on talking about your organization, I'd love to hear about some success stories about individuals that you've put into leadership, or talk about some of the programs that you lead, like Latino Talks, First Latinas, Rising Stars, Young Leaders, and Vote Like a Madre. Any of the programs that you'd like to make sure our audience knows about.
Absolutely. Well, I love to highlight just today, we endorsed for reelection the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Adriano Espaillat. He's originally from New York, but someone who represents the dreams and aspirations of Dominican Americans as the first Dominican elected to Congress. We, over our 10-year history, have supported and endorsed over 350 Latinos who've run successfully for public office. That builds the bench of representation. And that is really exactly what we need to continue to do if we're going to bridge the gap between those statistics you mentioned earlier. We're 20% of the population, but only 2% of elected officials. So every single year, we continue to build that bench. This year, we have already endorsed over 40 candidates. We expect to have a couple more slates coming out before the election. And the fact is, that's an important aspect of our programming because, again, having folks in the rooms where decisions are made is critical to ensure that the issues impacting the Latino community are addressed. But we also need to engage Latino voters. And so we do that in a number of ways. Our Vote Like a Madre program, for example, builds the gap in information and connecting climate issues with voters, specifically Latina voters who are concerned about the future for our children and generations to come. So Vote Like a Madre is really a call to action, to vote like a chingona, to vote like someone who really cares about the folks that we're bringing up in this world, and to channel those issues to the candidates that are fighting to ensure that climate stays on the agenda. And similarly, we've worked with other partners on a program called, which I'm super excited about, First Latinas, where we engage voters to support candidates that are breaking barriers, specifically women, and also specifically Afro-Latinas through our Afro-Latina Leads program. And finally, you mentioned our Latino Talks program. This is a program that we do through our foundation. It's a nonpartisan summit that we conduct in Washington, D.C. every year, where we basically take the time to dive deep on the issues that are impacting our communities, have meetings on the Hill with members of Congress. We bring together over 300 change makers from around the country, and we culminate with a cultural program, as I mentioned, in DC, where we really hone in on all of the things that we need to be doing as a community to move the ball forward. And as you mentioned earlier, we are under attack right now. Latinos are on the front lines of not just representation, but also the battle for our democracy. And so we anticipate this year's program will be very successful. We're looking forward to bring some great speakers. And for anyone who's interested in participating, please go to our website. There you can learn a little bit more about all of our programs, including Path to Victory, for those of you who are interested in running for office or learning how to run successful campaigns. We'll be doing a training in Dallas very shortly, and then also doing virtual trainings as well. So we hope to get some good warriors out there to make sure we're winning races.
We got national orgs on the ground, y'all. It's going to be good. So thank you for sharing about some of the different programs. I especially as a comms professional, as a representative of Progress Texas, feel very excited about Latino Talks. That to us, we recognize that messaging is one of the most important things, especially when you have so many false narratives about Latinos coming down from the top. So Thank you for pushing forward those programs and sharing a little bit. I also want to pitch to our audience that we are excited to share that listeners have an opportunity to come hear about your work in person. You're presenting at the Texas Democratic Women's Convention coming up soon on February 6th through 8th with a presentation entitled The Texas Blueprint, Year-Round Latino Engagement That Wins. Would you give our listeners a sneak peek and tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We, as I mentioned, have a lot of opportunities to mobilize Latino voters to vote for Democratic candidates and really help the party win back the House. So this year, we're going to dive deep on the statistics. We're going to dive deep on the organizations that are doing different types of interventions to engage Latino voters, working with Latino candidates, and helping to bridge the gap, Latino Victory as a convener, so that we can have different outcomes than what we had in 2024. So at the convention, we're going to talk about the strategy, how we're building momentum and building turnout for November 4th so Democrats can win key elections and certainly not only win back the House, but set the stage to win back the White House.
Thank you, Katharine, for sharing about that. And once again, that's going to be February 6th through 8th. So listeners, if you haven't gotten tickets, make sure to check it out and go see Katharine in person. As we finish out for this episode, Katharine, we'd love to hear any final thoughts, resources, or calls to action from you. And please tell our audience where they can keep up to date with Latino Victory.
Absolutely. Folks can go to our website, latinovictory.org. For any information about our programs, and certainly to sign up, as well as contribute to our efforts. If there's something that I have to share is, as we know, our country is in a very critical moment, and it really requires all of us to do what we can to not only support our democracy, but also take care of our communities. For many of us, this is a very emotional time, a very challenging time. And so certainly, if there's one little bit that you can do, please help support the cause. You can donate, you can work on a campaign, you can run for office. Certainly, you can bring folks to the polls, educate yourselves. The bottom line is that elections matter. We are seeing the results live in our communities, and we cannot allow this kind of environment to continue. So it really takes all of us to be part of the solution. And I know that a lot of it will come from Texas. So please stay in touch, stay connected, and take care of yourself while you're out there.
Wonderfully put. Thank you for joining us today. And listeners, I'd be remiss not to mention that we are actively fundraising to expand our media here at Progress Texas to include a Spanish-speaking staff member to deliver specialized content. We are expanding audiences in 2026 too, trying to build a more representative democracy and increasing the reach of our progressive messages daily. So you can help us reach our goal as well with a donation today to partner in this crucial initiative to increase language access with the goal of promoting civic engagement. Click the link in the notes to fund Spanish media in Texas. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for joining us today, Katharine Pichardo, CEO and President of Latino Victory.
Thank you so much, Tatum. Really appreciate it.
Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, have not joined the team yet. So if you're a regular, let's get you on board right now. Join the team at progresstexas.org. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Tatum Owens, and thanks for listening. Bye now.